An easy sheet pan dinner, let's put that together. Start by preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then go ahead and get your veggies together. This sheet pan dinner is coming together with 3 simple ingredients, or 5 simple ingredients. Your vegetables, which we're using bell peppers and onions, your protein, which is your chicken breast, and the marinade and seasonings that we have. I'm using a pre-made jerk, marinade, and a spice blend that I have in my cupboard. Feel free to use whatever you have. And the point of me sharing this easy pan dinner is to emphasize the fact that an easy meal, or a meal that requires the least or less amount of energy, isn't a useless meal. Or said differently, a meal that takes more effort isn't inherently better than one that doesn't. It doesn't make it more nutritious or more worthy. An easy meal like this sheet pan dinner is a smart meal because it does not require a lot of energy, nor does it take a significant amount of resources. In fact, you can use whatever resources you have. So if you do not have red onions and bell peppers, you could swap this with broccoli. You could swap this with any vegetable that works well in the oven and will cook up in a short amount of time. Squash, zucchini. You could switch the chicken for tofu. You could use shrimp. Your options are endless. What you have available is what will make sense, or it will make sense for what you have available. And the effort it takes to put a meal like this together is not significant. But again, what is easy for one person might not be easy for somebody. And that requires some, I will acknowledge there is some privilege in making what are called quote unquote easy or quick meals. At the same time, confusing the effort with the value is a mistake you want to not make. Or put differently, you don't want to confuse the effort with value, because folks often think that if a meal is quick or easy, then it's cutting corners or it's not as nourishing. When really a meal doesn't become more nourishing just because it took longer to make. And this is where people confuse effort with value. This sheet pan dinner comes together in 15 minutes with a few minutes of prep. This doesn't make it any less useful. In fact, it makes it more useful for folks who do not have the time, capacity, energy, or even some of the capabilities to make things from scratch. And speaking of those capabilities, whether or not it's somebody not being able to stand up for a lengthy period of time, or somebody just tired, the convenience of using certain convenience foods like a pre-made jerk marinade that's being used to season this chicken, makes it accessible. One of the biggest shifts I've made in my own kitchen is using convenience foods like these, because the goal is not to make everything from scratch. The goal is to make dinner simple and easy. And it will be a smart meal because it's a meal that one can actually make. Too often folks have this idealized version of what a meal should look like based on, I don't know, their latest favorite food content creator and influencer. But when they don't have the time, the capacity, the energy, or even the desire to make it happen the way that they see it, then what? Quite frankly, I would rather have a simple meal that I can make than a elaborate, perfect meal that stays in my Instagram saved camera roll, or saved in my camera roll that I never get to. And that's the thing about what I call easy meals, is there can be just as complete as not so easy meals, because in this sheet pan dinner you've got the vegetables, you've got protein, you've got flavor, seasoning, things that are crucial to a delicious tasting or yeah, delicious tasting meal. And it's flexible enough to work with what you have. Because it's simple doesn't mean it's lacking. Because it's simple, it gets made and enjoyed, and it nourishes you. And that's the part that I want to emphasize, that nourishing yourself is possible when you lessen the friction wherever you can. And you do that by using things like a marinade, by making easy sheet pan dinners like this, by making things very simple. It's a strategy and a valuable skill to develop as somebody in the kitchen trying to nourish yourself and those you love. And if there's anything I've learned over the years, is that nourishment is sustainable when you stop trying to make food harder than it needs to be. Because not every meal is going to be elaborate and needs to be elaborate or a project. The smartest meal is the one that you will make. So aim to nourish yourself, to feed yourself in the simplest way possible.